So I just got off the phone with one of my new students, and this new student is in NVidia. And NVidia, as you know, has been one of the stocks, probably the number one followed stock of this year and maybe even last year. But it's made a lot of people rich. Let's talk about that, okay? And this guy was no exception. And we started to talk about it, and he has ridden NVIDIA up from about $43 all the way to its high at around 131. If you've held NVIDIA through earnings in the last week or so, you have really been feeling some pain. I mean, it went down from 130 something all the way down to 104. Now, that's a big move. And that's why I always say that trading is 90% mindset. So how do you establish your mindset in trading? Well, there's a lot of different things that I teach in my programs, but the number one way is to have a trading plan. And the trading plan should be made when you're sitting around having a coffee or a tea or whatever, and you are unemotional, and you could say, look, I am in this for the long term, or I'm in this for the medium term, or I know what the stock is doing. I believe that in 3 years it will be this. Here is what I'm going to do in the meantime. And in the meantime, what I normally recommend to people is to write covered calls, because you have an engine that puts money into your account from somebody that's paying you for the right to have your stock. And if you don't know what covered calls are or how they work, I've got other videos on my website that you can click below. Probably I'll put a link to make sure that you can learn how to do those. It's what you do after you get into the trade that matters, because it's all up here. And 90% of your trading is up here. And let's take a look at this chart. So this is the daily candles on NVIDIA. You could see it went from just a few days ago up to 131, all the way back down to this low of around 104. And right now it's around 106. It's bouncing up today. But yesterday was a high volume, lousy candle where the stock went from a gap down at 116 all the way down to 105 or 108, I guess, something like that. So if you were in that, you lost $8. Now, $8 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 7.5%, 8%. That's a lot in one day. And it's scary when you're holding your life savings and the money that you've worked so hard to make. What do you do to get out of your head, out of your heart, and out of those things that make you make bad decisions, right? You've got to have a trading plan. So what I always do is you sit down and you say, if the market goes up, here's what I'm doing. If the market or the stock stays sideways, here's what I'm doing. If the market goes down, here's what I'm doing, right? And then you have contingency plans for everything, because nothing ever goes as planned, as you know, right? Like the joke is, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. We make plans. There's nothing wrong with making plans. What is wrong is if you don't adjust those plans as you go to more customize them for you. And so you have to decide, am I going to sell deeper in the money? Am I going to go to cash going into earnings? Am I going to take a chance that NVIDIA is going to go down or up and I'm still in it for the long term? And that's fine. And you could in which case you just sell calls for it. But it's all in your mindset. And so covered calls allow you to pick up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6%, like in NVIDIA's case. You could get 6 and 7% going into numbers by selling at the money going into numbers. Obviously, it wasn't enough to get 7% when the stock was at 125. That only gave you about $8 on the way down, and the stock went down $20, right? But still, if you had sold deeper in the money, maybe you sold the 110s, and you would have been protected all the way down to 110. So we teach that in our programs, because I know that you can make a ton of money on the way up. And people are all thrilled when you make a ton of money on the way up. It's when the money turns around, when the market turns around, when the stock turns around, that you're not making money, that you're like, oh my God, especially when you have a day like yesterday where things just went down like fast. And then you're like, oh my God, is it going to continue to go down? It's going to go from 104 to 102 to 100 to, like you don't know where it's going to go. And so you start to, money is energy, so you start to consider that you're going to lose all your life savings and your family's not going to be able to eat, or you're not going to pay for that trip that you have coming up. And so you have to realize that putting together a trading plan is really important, and getting out of the emotional state of making decisions. Because I always say, when emotions go up, intelligence goes down, and vice versa. And you don't want to be emotionally making decisions on trading. You want to have a plan. So have a plan, and remember that trading is 90% mindset. I'll see you on the next video.